Hello friends, now from today we will start our new subject, that is SOM, strength of materials. Right, in this I will be covering 9 chapters one by one. So starting with the first chapter, we have chapter 1, introduction to stress and strain. This, so first thing, see, we have a matrix representation of stress, right? Matrix representation is something like this. In this we are going to represent the stress. As we know, what is stress? Stress is represented by tau, that is force per unit area, right? And if I talk about the axis, so this is x-axis, this is y-axis, and this is z-axis, right? On these three axes, depending on these three axes, we have different planes. Like I have a x plane, I have a y plane, and similarly I have a z plane. And here we have three stresses, that is normal stress and two stresses which are parallel to the plane. Similarly here also I have three stresses, normal and two parallel. Similarly here out of this page, and two stresses which is parallel to this plane, right? So this is x phase, this is y phase, and similarly this is z phase. If I talk about the representation, this is tau. The stress is represented, like if I'm writing stress, so I have two quantities here. This is called the plane and this is called the direction. Plane and direction. So if I want to write here, what I'll write, it is x phase and x direction. Similarly this is, the phase is x but it is in z axis, so xz. And similarly this will be what? This I'm representing it here. This will be tau x y. So depending on these quantities I can write a tensor, stress tensor. So the stress tensor will be tau, tau, tau. In this we have horizontal line and vertical lines. So horizontal is called phase and vertical is called direction. So this is x phase and x direction, x phase and y direction, x phase and z direction. Similarly this is yx, yy, yz, zx, zy and zz. And the diagonal element is called, these stresses are normal stress. Normal stress. So normal stress can be represented as tau xx or it can be written as sigma x. Sigma represents normal stress. Clear? This is all about stress, right? This much is important for our exam. Now next we have strain. Strain is change in dimension upon original dimension, right? If I talk about strain in x direction, it will be deformation in x upon original x, or in terms of length you can write change in length per unit original length. Similarly epsilon d, diametral strain, or you can say literal strain, epsilon l, it is change in dia per unit original dia, right? And here one thing you should remember, that true strain can be calculated as ln 1 plus minus strain. So this is true strain and this is engineering strain, right? Now third we have Hooke's law. Hooke's law is what? Stress is directly proportional to strain. If proportionality is removed, we are getting a constant E. And this proportionality constant also, we have some classifications. One is called E, that is Young's modulus. One is called G. G is called shear modulus. And next we have K. K is called bulk modulus, right? And two more things you should know, that is only one thing, mu. Mu is called Poisson's ratio. Poisson's ratio. What is mu? Mu is called lateral change per unit longitudinal change, right? And if you see carefully, if I'm applying a force on this shaft, then the length is being changed. It becomes something like this, but the lateral part is decreasing. So that's why length is change in length is increasing, but the lateral change is decreasing. That's why to represent they both are opposite in direction, we are applying a negative sign, right? And if I talk about their relationship, they are related with each other. There are three relations. First, E is equal to 3k 1 minus 2 mu. E is equal to 2g 1 plus mu. And one more relation we have, E is equal to 9 kg upon 3k plus g. right? So these three relations are very important, and frequently questions are being asked from here. I think this much is clear. Now we have fourth point. Now we are going to interconnect stress and strain connection. So the stress can be seen in x direction, can be seen in y and z direction. So stress along with strain, right? So if I want to write strain in x direction, what I'll write? I'll write very simply sigma x by E. This is by Hooke's law, but I have already told you the longitudinal dimensional change results in lateral dimensional change. So the strain will come in lateral direction also. So that's why mu sigma y by E minus mu sigma z by E. So this is strain in x direction. Strain in y direction is sigma y by E minus mu sigma x by E minus mu sigma z by E. And similarly, epsilon z would be sigma z by E minus mu sigma x by E minus mu sigma y by E. So this is strain in z direction. Clear? And by combining these three, we will get, if I combine all these three equations, first, second and third, if I combine it here, combine 1, 2 and 3, epsilon v, volumetric change, volumetric strain is epsilon x, epsilon y and epsilon z. And by calculating this, you will get sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by E 1 minus 2 mu. Why 2 mu? Because if I am going to add these all, mu sigma x by E will come 2 times. So that's why 2 mu, and 1 sigma E is there, that's why 1. So this is the volumetric strain. And if you want to calculate for 2D, what you will do? Sigma z 0. So this is strain in 2D. This is also strain, volumetric strain in 2D, volumetric strain in, if z is there, then this is not 2D, this is 3D. Similarly, this is also in 3D, this is also in 3D, and similarly, this is also in 3D. Clear? Now, if I want hydrostatic stress condition, hydrostatic stress. So in hydrostatic stress, sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, all will be same sigma, because if I'm considering a point here, then the sigma in all the directions, x, y or z, would be same. Right? So you will get volumetric strain to be as 3, from here I'm going to write 3 sigma by E 1 minus 2 mu. So you need not to remember this formula. Just if you are remembering epsilon x, epsilon y, epsilon z, so by combining all three, you will get epsilon v, volumetric strain, and from volumetric strain, if you want to go to hydrostatic stress condition, then you will apply this condition. Sigma x, sigma y, sigma z will be equal to sigma. Clear? Now, fifth point. What is one small topic is what is homogeneous and isotropic. See, homogeneous means in a particular direction. If I am having a body in a particular direction, the property of the material remains same. In a particular direction, the property is same, and if I change the direction, the property will be same in that particular direction also. Right? And what is isotropic? Isotropic means at a point, the property of the material is same. Epsilon x, epsilon x, epsilon x. And if you change the point, the property changes. Epsilon y, epsilon y, epsilon y. Sorry, epsilon y. Clear? So this is all about stress and strain. Now we are moving forward and we will discuss the properties of the material. Now after fifth, we have the sixth point. Properties of material. Properties of material. Properties of material, we have stress strain graph. Stress strain graph. Basically, stress strain graph comes from force deflection graph, and if I divide it by area and this by original length, then this will be strain and this will be stress. So by dividing by area on y-axis and length on x-axis, you will get stress strain graph, right? And this particular graph I am going to draw for mild steel. So let me draw first. This is A point, this is B point, this is C, D, E and F. F is called the fracture point. So what is A? A is called proportionality limit. Proportionality means the Hooke's law is valid on OA part, and after AB is called elastic limit. Elastic limit means the stress strain graph is not straight, but if I remove the load, the body will regain its original shape. And after B, this section is different for different material. Generally this section is very small. For mild steel I am drawing a little bit wider graph, but it is not such. It is very thin graph here, right? It will be appearing as a point. So this is called upper yield point, this is upper yield point, and this is lower yield point, C dash. And after that there we have, this is called yielding region. The material gets yield here, and after this we have strain hardening. This is the, at this point we have sigma ut ultimate stress, and then fraction F is called fracture region, right? So till here, or you can say till here, B point, it is elastic. And I have earlier told you BC dash is very small region. You can assume it at as a point. So from here to here, this is strain hardening. Sorry, not strain hardening. This is yielding. Yielding means material is getting yielded. Deformation is there, but the value of stress is not increasing. And after this, we have strain hardening. This you will study in material science. Strain hardening. Strain hardening means the material is getting the molecules of the material gets stretched, and due to the stretch in the material, more force is required for its fracture. So that's why we are getting ultimate stress, and after a particular point, after E, the material gets highly elongated and gets detached, and due to detaching, the material gets failed at lower stress. This, why it is failing at lower stress, you will study in material science, right? So you can tell this is a necking region. Necking region. Two important regions are there from starting to fracture. This is called toughness, right? And till elastic region we have resilience. What is resilience? It is energy absorbed by the material up to elastic limit. And what is toughness? Toughness is energy stored by the body from origin to fracture. It is the total energy stored by the body. Is it clear? Now we are going to define some formulas. The first one is strain energy per unit volume. It is represented by U. U is equal to half sigma epsilon. And this is strain energy per unit volume. And if I want to calculate strain energy, this one is important. Strain energy is called F square L upon 2AE. F square L upon 2AE. This is the strain energy formula, right? And after this, you should remember one more formula, that is deformation in any body. Like if I assume a rod and if I apply a force, then the body gets deformed. The deformation is something like this. This is the deformation in the body, and the deformation is calculated by FL by AE. And here AE is called axial rigidity. Axial rigidity, right? This is axial rigidity. Now next we have seventh, deformation due to self weight. Deformation due to self weight. So if I have a body and at a particular x, if I assume a portion dx, and I'm drawing it here, dx, the downward force will be what? mg, and m can be replaced by rho a dx g. Basically density is what? Mass upon volume, and from here mass is density into volume, and volume can be written as cross sectional area into dx. So that's why I have written this, right? And this force is responsible for its deformation. So deformation is what? The force rho a dx g. I'm using this formula, force per unit. This is the force, and length. And what is the length of this part? Dx upon AE, constant axial rigidity, and this is small deformation. If I integrate it from 0 to L, I'll get rho AG. I think something is wrong. Yes, this is wrong. The mg part, area into length, we are not going to take this much length, because which part is going to stretch? This part, na? So this part is having a length of x, so I'll write here x, not dx. then only you will get an integration. So integration 0 to L x dx by AE. So the deformation is coming out to be rho g L square upon AE. And here A is also, so A get cancelled. So finally deformation is rho g L square upon 2E. So this is deformation due to self weight. And you can remember one more thing here, deformation due to force will be twice the deformation due to self weight. I'm not going into the derivation part, just remember it, right? So due to force, the deformation is equal to 2 times deformation due to self weight. Now after this we have deformation due to tapered bar. So tapered bar, something like this, D1, D2. So the deformation will be PL upon, and in place of L, in place of A, I'll write pi by 4 D1, D2, E. E is the material property. This is deformation due to tapered bar. And next we have last if a uniform cross-sectional rod is taken and in the same length I am taking a non-uniform cross-sectional tapered rod, then for equal deformation the diameter will be equal to D1 into D2. So you should remember this result, and this is D1, this is the diameter of this part, diameter, and this is uniform diameter. So what should be the diameter of the uniform cross-sectional bar? It should be under root D1 D2, right? So this is all about chapter 1, in which we have discussed each and important formulas which are going to be important for the exam. Thank you.